This is the Tiki and Tierney show. Diapers off. Pacifier out. Whole Foods instead of liquids. Training wheels off. It's time for the kid to grow up.
Well, it's not.
Let's go.
It's not grow up. It's mature. I think he's grown. I think he's aware. I think he understands. And obviously, we're talking about Zach Wilson, New York Jets' current starting quarterback, until Robert Saleh tells us otherwise. I think that there is a necessary level of confidence, borderline cockiness, that you need to have in order to be an NFL football player. Obviously, at the quarterback position, it's paramount because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get the crap beat out of you. You're going to throw interceptions. You're going to fumble. You're going to do bad stuff. And the only way to get through that is to be supremely confident in yourself. But there's also, and this is every walk of life, forget football, there's also a need to be able to read rooms and read situations and understand that when I make a mistake and everybody knows it, and even those that are outside of the little bubble that we're talking that we live in, they know it too. Admitting that mistake is probably the most important thing you'll ever learn how to do as a young man, and in this case, a young athlete. Zach Wilson, and I heard this all day yesterday, BT. We talked about it. We went heavy on it. The chewing the gum, like all that stuff. We went heavy on it, you in particular. And I thought maybe it's a New York thing. Maybe it's just something that people and Jet fans who were pissed off because you lost the 14th straight time to the New England Patriots are talking about. Maybe it's just it was everywhere.
Got
BT.
crushed.
I had friends calling me from Texas saying, "What's up with your boy?" And I'm like, "It's not my boy. I'm not a Jet fan. I watched Monday Night Football. I listened to radio shows across the country. It was insane how intense the skepticism is on Zach Wilson." And then you start reading these other things, which were the next logical step in the process. He's starting to lose the locker room. And the reason that happens is because when you can't admit when it's you, it's not everybody, it's you. When you can't admit it's you, and even if it's not all you, taking the blame, like pointing the thumb at yourself, when you can't do that, when you are supposed to be the leader, guys stop trusting you. They stop believing in you. They start turning their ire, their angst, they start turning it at you because you won't turn it to yourself. Zach Wilson's got to really check himself. Otherwise, he will lose his locker room. And it'll start because there's a guy sitting right there. We don't know how good he's going to be, Mike White. We don't know if he's just an average dude or just whatever. But when there's a viable alternative and people start talking about it, that is Mike White getting the starting job, and Robert Saleh opened the door to this. When there's a viable alternative, the locker room just slowly starts to divide.
Splinters.
It just splinters, just a little bit. And as soon as, if Zach Wilson doesn't get this right, the guys are going to turn on him. He's going to lose the locker room, and it's going to be fully divided. And it's going to be ugly for the New York Jets. I see it coming already.
Well, I'll tell you this. Robert Saleh had to do this. He absolutely had to do this. And I think there's two aspects at play. There's how Zach Wilson handles this, and we'll see. And then there's the other aspect of Robert Saleh understanding, oh, man, okay, I got a lot of guys in that locker room who are, laying pads and blasting blasting helmets with opposing offensive players for the sake of this team. And you got this kid up there, this young, entitled, a little arrogant, a little smug, lacking. And it's just the way it comes off, lacking accountability. I got to do something about this. And so there's the Zach Wilson stuff, but really there's now for me, and I don't know how that's going to go. I have no idea. He might go into a shell. He might come out.
I don't think he's going into a shell.
I don't think so either, but anything's possible.
True.
He could go into a shell. He could get benched. He could start the game, play poorly. He can get pulled halfway through. He could come out, light up an average Bears defense, go for 270 with 3 touchdowns. I mean, nothing would surprise me, really, at this point. But what I needed to see was stability and intuition from the head coach. We needed to see that. Now, I don't know how much Joe Douglas weighed in on this. I don't know how much Woody Johnson weighed in on this. But I was in the hotel room yesterday waiting to to do the St. John's game. Not the game was late, but I had to do something before with the team. And I'm following on Twitter. I'm like, oh, he hasn't met the media yet. I'm seeing, people I follow, Connor Hughes, Samini. Oh, it's pushed back 20 minutes. Oh, it's pushed back. What the hell's going on here? What are they doing? What they're doing is saving their franchise because I don't know that there's been, even going back to the early Eli stuff, and I was doing local back then on a different station. Nobody thought Eli was guaranteed to be the man. No, when he first showed up, he was not incredibly good. He was not. You lived it. Mm-hmm. I know it. We all know it. All right. But the thing that you got from Eli was a professionalism, a consistent steadiness. So from the Giants' point of view, they have not had a quarterback issue like this, like off the field issue or personality issue. Maybe in my lifetime, I don't know. And Darnold didn't, he wasn't very good, but he had nothing around him. But he got it. He took the blame. He took ownership. Sanchez was probably thrust into that position too early. Gino wasn't ready. This is a real legitimate quarterback issue we haven't seen in a long time. And the quarterback's got to look himself in the mirror, but it had to start with the coach. Good job by Saleh.
It's interesting because it's not necessarily about his play. Because we can accept.
No, it's about that, too.
I know it is. But we can accept that a young quarterback is going to stink at times. I mean, you talked about this with Eli. It was rough that first year. But you started to see it turn. First of all, he always said the right thing. Always.
That's my main point. You always felt good that his head was on
Eli
straight.
Always said the right thing. Yep. He'd have these games, and you'd be like, oh, dude, this kid just can't figure it out, man. This sucks, right? But he always said the right thing.
Sure.
And so then when you slowly started seeing him get better, oh, no, okay, now I see it. And then by his third year, which was my last year, and then the subsequent year, it was like, dude, I have complete faith in him. Because even if something goes wrong, I know that he's going to take accountability for it. He's not going to push it off on, Palexico didn't run the right route. Amani's, supposed to be in this spot, and he wasn't there, so I couldn't find him, so I had to throw it away. I'm getting that from Zach.
Yeah.
It's his second year.
I know.
And he's pushing blame to other people, right? And
it's a horrible look.
It's a horrendous look.
It's a horrible look.
And everybody knows that the quarterback gets all if the Jets were winning, if they had found a way to win that game yesterday, it's because say Zach made a miraculous 2 days ago, miraculous throw, and they win the game, and all the platitudes would be on Zach, all of them. But when the opposite happens, and he gets the blame, he pushes it off. That's troubling because it's selfish. And in a game that's as dependent upon your teammates as football. Basketball, maybe not so. I can drop 50. We're going to win, right? I can get 3 home runs or pitch a no-hitter. Football is fully dependent on teammates. Fully dependent on teammates. Nobody does it by themselves. I don't care how good you think you are. In the NFL, nobody does it by themselves. For him to take this selfish approach is going to put him on the outside of everybody else that's trying to do it together. I mean, it's maybe too early to throw out the lose the locker room card because I know Connor Hughes, he wrote about this, but you can start to see it happen. You're already hearing it. Your subtle little things. They're not saying it's,
I don't even think it was subtle. Garrett Wilson said this is unacceptable. What are we doing out here?
But
we've got to be more accountable. Flat out said it.
It's not, but Zach's name's not thrown in it.
Well, but the implication is quite clear that it's number 2.
So I'm saying subtle, but it's loud.
Yeah, no question. 877-337-6666 is our number. Tiki and Tierney on the Fan inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guarantee lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Now, we have come across a lot of stats, all right, over the last couple of days. Zach's 31st in this, and Zach is 32nd in this. Can I just lift the curtain on the most jarring statistic that I think I've ever seen in my life pertaining to any New York athlete
What
ever?
Is that?
Okay. There is a side-by-side. Well, before I give it to you, if I said, Teak, who is the biggest quarterback bust in terms of performance, in terms of professionalism, in terms of all the stuff, maybe in the last 20, 30 years? There's 2 that jump to mind immediately.
Leaf?
Ryan Leaf is one. Who's the other one? Big Raiders.
Oh, DeMarcus Russell.
Yes. Okay. over their first 20 career starts.
Don't
are you ready for this?
I don't want to hear this.
Well, Jamarcus Russell has a passer rating of 70.6. Zach Wilson is 70.7.
Well,
All right.
at least he's better.
Higher. Yeah,
he's
no.
better.
In terms of passing touchdowns to picks, so Zach has thrown more picks and fewer touchdowns than Jamarcus Russell. I mean, that is Scaryville right there. So something needed to happen. There needed to be some sort of a moment of clarity for the fan base, but most importantly, for the quarterback who's walking around like a petulant little punk. And I really don't mean that as mean as that sounds, because I think at his core he's a good kid, but that is an awful look. Chomping on the gum like a horse. I mean, deflecting. Nah, buddy, you got to be a whole hell of a lot better. And yesterday was the first message.
Yeah.
Now, you know what today is, Tiki?
I do know what today
is a huge day for
It
the
is
station.
a Hungerthon day. It is it's been going on for a lot of years.
1975.
1975.
Yep.
A Hungerthon that the show is putting on. Our show and all the shows on the network are doing. Your donation will be matched 50% by our friends at Casamigos. So call in anytime. I think that's how it works, right? You call in.
I got it all for you here.
Donate. Whatever you can afford, but people are going hungry in Thanksgiving time, and we want to help, and they've been doing it for many, many years. This is our first, me and BT's first Hungerthon.
Yeah, I've heard it for years on the fan, for sure. Nice to be a part of it.
But we're excited to be about it.
Yep, there's no doubt. Here's the number, 800-5HUNGRY. That's 1-800-548-6479. The website is hungerthon.org. As Tiki says, I said 1975 is when this was born, and in addition to some amazing experiences and gifts, whether it's Bruce Springsteen stuff or John Lennon stuff, we've got some really personal things for the station that I think you guys will really dig that we'll tell you throughout the day, one of which will include you guys coming in, hanging with me and Tiki, watching the show live, sticking around for an hour, taking pictures, a real meet and greet personal experience. So it's an honor to be a part of it. You know, we think about crime, and these are all obviously incredibly important things. The economy, but if you can't eat, you can't even exist. Like, we almost take that for granted. So let's start stamping and stomping this out. All right, 877-337-6666. Kind of a pivotal moment for the coach, moment of inflection for the quarterback. How do you think Zach responds, and do you think he even starts on Sunday? Your call's next on The Fan.